Hello everyone. Today I want to show you how to fetch data to Excel via API with an example. First, let's start from the Excel side. In the cells at the top, we see the year, month, and day values respectively. In C4, we see USD as currency. This currency is our source currency. So we take USD and convert it to USD. Or we take USD and convert it to Canadian dollars. Thus, we can see the currency conversions of the USD. So, $1 equals to $1. $1 equals to 18 Turkish liras. So, how we can achieve this? First of all, let's clear the value field. Now we can examine what happens when we press the exchange rates button. I will not press the button, instead I will be going straight from the code. Option explicit forces us to write the code according to the strict rules. If we don't write, for example, we don't need to define obj request variable like dim obj request as object. We have a sub-procedure called getExchangeRates and no other sub-procedure. Before we start, we need two more things to run this code correctly. The first one is the JSON converter. You can find the link to JSON converter library below the video. How do we import JSON converter? Go to File, then Import File and find the file jsonconverter.bas and click to open. There is one more thing we need to do. Go to Tools, then References. Now we have to select and import Microsoft Scripting Runtime to the project. Let's see what getExchangeRates does. We will be proceeding with F8. I will explain the code as we go step by step. I pressed F8 and my procedure started. It takes me to the first expression, URL string. The first expression combines the text value of B2 and C2 and D2. In the locals window, you can see our values. In the immediate window next to it, you can see what we print with debug print. URL string is empty for now. When I proceed with F8, my expression becomes 2022-10-12. So it gets the relevant values from Excel. Now we move on to the symbols expression. The symbols expression will be the value of the field I show here. Before we do that, let's first talk about the range expression. Let me remind that we can give two parameters inside the range function. The first parameter is b5 and the second is a separate range function. Between the value returned from the second range function and the range b5 is our range value. The second range means move down from b5 to the bottom of the data. So after selecting b5, when you press Ctrl arrow down key combination, that is the cell you go to. After determining our range, we do a transpose operation. If we assign the value before transposing, we get back a two-dimensional array, whereas if we transpose, we get back a one-dimensional array. So we can process our data more easily. I am proceeding with F8. I got the symbols values. I can see the values in the code window, so let's examine them in local window. As you can see, symbols has taken the values USD, Canadian dollar, Euro and Turkish liras. We will connect these symbols with join and put them into the symbol string variable. I am proceeding with F8. The join operation returns a string by adding a character of our choice between each array element. In our process, the comma was added. As you can see, all currencies were joined together. Next step is to get the base string value. Base string is basically the currency to convert, so it's USD. I proceed with F8. My base string value is set to USD. We want to access an API over the internet. To do this, we need to create a path, URL. The URL value composed of these respectively: api.api-layer.com/exchange-rate_data/URL string ? Symbols symbol string base base string. I'm going forward with F8, so I can see the full form of the URL here. Also, I can check it on the immediate window. With the ? we can see the full URL here too. The next line has the is async value. Asynchronous operations are a complicated subject, so I won't mention it here. For now, it's enough to know it should be true. In the following line, we create an XML HTTP object for OBJ request. This object is taken from the MS XML library, which allows us to process OBJ requests without using it over and over again below. So you can think that there is an OBJ request in front of everything that starts with a dot here. Firstly, I need to run an open function. I gave the get value in it because this is a get request. Then I give the URL value we created here. I give the is async value. This should be true. I did my first operation. Then I set the content type value as application JSON with set request header. It means we will get a JSON type data. We need an API key. You can actually think of this API key as the password for me to access the URL here. This is the API key that I got. You need to get yourself another API key. Then we perform the send operation. The request is sent at this stage. That means we have done the preparations above and now send the request. After sending the request, it says call doEvents function until ready state comes as 4. It means that this while loop will continue until the ready state value returns 4. After this process is over, we assign the response text value that returns from OBJ request into strResponse and finish the with process. Unfortunately, I cannot see the data in strResponse here. Let's try to see it in the immediate window. Okay, this is the value returned from strResponse. As you can see, we got a JSON value. In order to understand this tutorial better, those of you who don't know the JSON format should learn JSON basics. After we get the JSON value, we will be navigating in the data. The success value, time step value, or other values may be required for some works, but the values we really want to reach will be the rates value here. Before starting the operations, as you know, we imported the JSON converter. With JSON converter, we want to be able to process incoming strResponse in a proper way. Technically speaking, we call it parsing. In other words, we are talking about converting it into a form that VBA will understand. Let's move on. Since this line has debug print, the value was printed below. Now with JSON converter, we throw this answer into a JSON object. Of course, as you can see, we jump to JSON converter for JSON operations. Let's come back to our module. What you need to do in such a case is to jump with Ctrl F8. We got the JSON value. We can also see it in the local window. As you can see, there are keys like success, historical, base, rates in item. What we want to do is to loop through the symbols. As you know, we took symbols above. If we look again what was in symbols, we see currency values. We will loop through the symbols, and while looping we will be printing the relevant values one by one from C5 downwards. To start from C5, we set I equal to 5. We entered for each. We get each symbol value one by one. Now we want to access relevant symbol value of the rates key in JSON and write the value to C5. If we go to the local window, we can only see rates values. Actually, I also have related symbol values under rates like USD. We can even look again like this. You know our values were inside strResponse. As you know, there are USD, Canadian dollar, Euro and Turkish liras under rates key. It took the USD value and wrote it here. Then we changed range to C6. This time it will write the Canadian dollar value. He wrote that too. Now he wrote the Euro value. And finally he wrote the Turkish lira value. After all, the system was terminated. We can change values in Excel. We can change the day value or we can add a new value here. Let's try rupee. Rupee value is now here. If we change the USD value to Turkish lira, then we can get the conversions of Turkish lira. Or if we change the date to 10, we can get the values for that day. Thank you for watching me, and don't forget to stay tuned for more.